Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever woken up after a full 8 hours of sleep, feeling like your mind is just, well, dragging through mud, or if you find yourself relying on copious amounts of coffee just to form a coherent sentence, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're diving into a comprehensive masterclass on how to solve your daily exhaustion and literally unlock the brain's hidden clearance engine. We are going to completely deconstruct the cutting-edge neuroscience of brain recovery. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll start with number 1, the brain fog mystery. Number 2, the anatomy of glymphatic flushing. Number 3, the 3 biological blockers. Number 4, physics and nutrient triggers. And finally, number 5, the nightly 3-step protocol. Section 1, the brain fog mystery. So why are you still tired after 8 hours of sleep? Millions of adults suffer from midday cognitive crashes, severe memory decline, and just this persistent fatigue despite spending a full 7 to 8 hours in bed. Think about that heavy reliance on afternoon coffee, or, that really frustrating inability to recall simple words during an important meeting. Most people instinctively blame poor sleep duration or baseline stress, right? But we need to uncover the actual medical mystery behind this, because cutting-edge neuroscience reveals that the primary culprit is often an uncleaned brain. To understand this, think about what your brain does during your waking hours. You have 86 billion neurons in there, and they are intensely active. They burn an astonishing 20% of your body's total energy for conscious thought, memory encoding, sensory processing, and motor control. That is a massive energy expenditure, especially considering the brain only makes up about 2% of your total body weight. However, this incredibly high rate of metabolic activity produces a huge volume of cellular byproduct and toxic waste. We're talking about metabolic debris, lactic acid, and microcellular sludge building up inside your head every single second that you're awake. Now, the specific types of waste being produced are highly neurotoxic. Among these byproducts are key proteins known as beta-amyloid and tau proteins. When these build up in the spaces between your brain cells, they create localized neuroinflammation. They literally slow down your synaptic firing speeds and disrupt neurotransmitter transmission. And that is exactly what causes that heavy, cloudy sensation you know as brain fog. Now, here's the catch. Because the brain is locked behind the rigid skull and that highly selective blood-brain barrier, it's totally isolated. It can't use the rest of your body's systemic lymphatic system to simply filter out these dangerous neurotoxins. If this goes unchecked over decades, this chronic accumulation is strongly associated with severe memory impairment and neurodegenerative decline. Section 2, anatomy of glymphatic flushing. This brings us to the hidden biological mechanism that operates while you sleep. The brain actually has its own spectacular way of dealing with this waste. Discovered by neuroscientists at the University of Rochester, this highly specialized system is essentially your brain's internal dishwasher, known as the glymphatic system. The word glymphatic is a portmanteau. It combines glial cells, which are the cells that manage the process, with the lymphatic system function it mimics. So here's the exact anatomy. Surrounding your brain's blood vessels is an outer pathway called the perivascular space. Picture this as a tiny, specialized plumbing trench running right alongside your blood vessels. Clear, nutrient-rich cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, is continuously pumped into this trench, but it operates under a very strict set of physical rules. While you are awake, your brain cells, both neurons and astrocytes, are fully expanded and tightly packed together to handle the intense demands of conscious thought. The interstitial channels between these cells are extremely narrow, which creates high hydraulic resistance. Think of it kind of like a tightly squeezed sponge. If you try to force water through it, the liquid just bounces off. This high resistance completely blocks fluid flow, meaning clearance literally cannot happen while your eyes are open. The glymphatic system only turns on at full capacity during deep, slow-wave delta sleep. When you finally transition into that deep sleep, something incredible happens. Specialized aquaporin 4 water channels open up, and this causes your astroglial cells to physically shrink in volume by up to 60%. Let that sink in for a second. Your brain cells literally shrink to nearly half their size. This dramatically widens the channels between them. With that hydraulic resistance, that tight sponge suddenly relaxed, high-pressure surges of cerebrospinal fluid just rush through the brain tissue like a heavy-duty power washer. This mammalian-specific mechanism collects all those beta-amyloid proteins, tau proteins, and inflammatory cytokines and forcefully flushes them directly into the jugular venous system and cervical lymph nodes, so your liver and kidneys can eliminate them. Section 3. The 3 biological blockers. If this incredible clearance engine exists in all of us, we really have to understand exactly what we're doing to break it, right? Why is morning brain fog at an all-time high if we all have this built-in power washer? Well, neuroscientists have pinpointed 3 major biological blockers that shut down the glymphatic system entirely. 1. Lack of deep delta wave sleep. 2. Late-night insulin and glucose spikes. And 3. Mechanical compression. The first one is pretty straightforward. If your sleep is fragmented by stress, high cortisol, late-night alcohol, or blue light from screens, you stay in light stage 1 or 2 sleep. And in light sleep, those astroglial cells flat out refuse to shrink. The channels stay closed, and the flush never happens. But let's look closer at the deep biological mechanisms of those other 2 blockers. Blocker number 2. When you consume food, especially refined carbs or heavy meals, within 3 hours of sleep, your body has to secrete insulin to process that glucose. Elevated nocturnal insulin suppresses the natural release of human growth hormone, or HGH. But more importantly, this process prevents the required drop in your core body temperature. And a drop in core temperature is the strict biological signal required to initiate deep, slow-wave sleep. On top of that, elevated insulin activates your sympathetic nervous system. That stress response keeps blood pressure elevated inside the skull, acting as a physical barrier that restricts the cerebrospinal fluid pulsations required for the flush. By eating late, you're essentially turning off the water pressure to the dishwasher. Blocker number 3 is purely mechanical. Remember, the physical path through which brain waste drains out of the skull is through the cervical lymph nodes and internal jugular veins located in your neck. If you sleep on your stomach or your back with improper spinal alignment or just a shortly bent neck, you create severe mechanical compression on those jugular veins. Gravity and fluid dynamics operate inside your body just as they do in physics. It acts exactly like a kinked garden hose. The cerebrospinal fluid cannot drain out into systemic circulation, so you just end up trapping a pool of toxic beta-amyloid waste inside your head all night long. Section 4. Physics and nutrient triggers. Let's talk about how we overcome these blockers by applying precise positional physics and specific biological nutrients to force your brain into a state of maximal nightly waste clearance. This number on the screen is absolutely fascinating. Dynamic contrast MRI studies published in neuroscientific literature have measured fluid dynamics in various sleeping postures. And the results? They're definitive. Sleeping in the lateral position, specifically on your right side, increases your glymphatic waste clearance efficiency by an incredible 25 to 30% compared to sleeping supine on your back or prone on your stomach. That is roughly a third more waste completely cleared out of your skull every single night simply by rolling over. So why does this happen? Lateral alignment works flawlessly with the gravity vector to perfectly align the brain's venous drainage. By utilizing gravity, you are opening the internal jugular veins to their absolute maximum diameter, allowing smooth, unimpeded drainage pathways from the cranium straight down into the thoracic cavity. It's a brilliant structural neurohack that ensures you wake up with a remarkably clear head. And the best part? It takes absolutely zero effort once you fall asleep. We also need to trigger the drop into delta sleep biochemically. Let's look at this table. Glycine is an inhibitory amino acid that binds to receptors in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which, by the way, is just a fancy science term for your brain's master clock. This triggers peripheral vasodilation, drawing heat away from your core and out to your hands and feet. This rapidly lowers your core body temperature by 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius, sending the exact signal your hypothalamus needs to shift straight into deep delta sleep. Meanwhile, let's look at magnesium. It's required for over 300 enzymatic processes. In the brain, it blocks NMDA receptors, which you can think of as the brain's stress and excitement switches. By preventing excess glutamate excitability and central nervous system stress, pairing magnesium with glycine significantly reduces vascular tension around the blood-brain barrier. This ensures optimal pressure dynamics so that the cerebrospinal fluid can exchange freely. Section 5. The Nightly 3-Step Protocol. All right, we've deeply analyzed the complex neuroscience of how the brain cleans itself, the blockers that stop it, and the physical and chemical triggers that enhance it. Now let's synthesize it all into a highly actionable, step-by-step nightly routine. To execute the glymphatic flush every single night, you must treat this as a non-negotiable checklist for peak performance. Step 1 is the 3-hour metabolic shutdown. You must fully commit to cutting off all calories, food, and sugar at least 3 hours prior to your target sleep time. This ensures your insulin levels baseline, allowing your core temperature to drop and HGH to surge. Mentally preparing for this fast is absolutely essential. Step 2 is the nutrient infusion, and step 3 is the physical setup. Let's look at the exact recipe for step 2. You will want to take this specific nutrient infusion about 30 to 45 minutes before lights out. Dissolve precisely 3 grams of organic glycine powder paired with 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate into just 4 to 6 ounces of warm water. The reason for the warm water is that it actually acutely aids in the core temperature regulation process we talked about earlier. This specific dosage and combination will trigger that peripheral vasodilation, naturally drop your core temperature, calm your racing thoughts, and fully prepare those astroglial cells to shrink. Then, for step 3, you get into your lateral alignment. Lie on your right side and use an ergonomically contoured pillow to keep your cervical and thoracic spine in a perfectly straight, horizontal line, unkinking that jugular hose. When you execute this protocol consistently, you stop waking up with that awful morning grogginess and memory latency. Your cognitive clarity skyrockets. So I want to leave you with this powerful final thought. Sleep is not merely a passive state of rest. It is an active, vital biological wash cycle. By taking control of this hidden biological engine tonight, will you commit to executing the glymphatic flush, clearing your morning brain fog, and safeguarding your greatest asset for the decades to come? The tools are literally right inside your own head, just waiting for you to activate them.